Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast. We hang out a little bit longer, and we always love to hear from you. So please feel free to send us any comments, direct messages on Facebook, and you can also actually hit us up on the talkback mic if you're listening to the podcast on the iHeartRadio app. I had a curveball thrown at me that I want to say I was a little surprised that just came out of nowhere, and it's something that we've talked about here before. So remember when my dad passed away? For many years, my brother and sister and I were trying to figure out what to do with this Corvette that wasn't running. It hadn't run in 40 years.
1966 red Corvette.
Yeah, and it was it was in very good shape. And so we did decide to part with it, realizing, okay, it's not practical to hold on to this thing because by the time you get it up and running, I guess there's nothing wrong with that being someone's hobby, but It can be expensive. You're not really going to drive it out in regular traffic, because if you hit that fiberglass body once, you're kind of done, right?
Right.
So, anyway, we sold it. The gentleman who bought it, great guy. We wound up staying in touch, and then I think I mentioned that here in one of our podcasts that Stephen Chappis, who listens to Murphy, Sam, and Jodi on the podcast, he also is a freelance writer.
Hi, Stephen.
He's an EMT and he's a freelance writer.
And a Corvette nut.
And a Corvette guy, right, exactly, big time. And so he wanted to write an article just about, the story of my dad's car because my dad was only the second owner of it. My dad, lost interest in trying to take care of it, lost interest in keeping it running, but he always took care of it. And
it sat for years.
And he sat. So it was and for us, as me and my brother and sister, we always wanted to see it running again. Now, I've only seen video of it. I've not seen it in person yet. And so
it is running again.
Yeah, it's running again. Gentleman who bought it lives about 60 miles away from here. And so just as life goes, trying to coordinate Stephen to come down and, take the pictures and write the article and meet and everybody's schedules, it's like 6 months have gone by. So I finally reached back out to coordinate a brand new date with the gentleman who bought the car, and he sold the car. Yeah, so he's already.
Oh.
He's already.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Sam.
He's already sold it. But the good news is there's actually some good news on that. The person he bought it from is about 10. He sold it to lives about 10 miles from here.
Oh, so it's getting closer,
right? So it's running again, and I've reached out to. We've all connected. I have not connected with the new owner just yet. The new owner is fine with me reaching out. I've just not reached out to him yet. And Stephen still wants to do the story, because just the story itself for any aficionado of Corvettes would be a fun story. But it was just a weird and sort of an unexpected, twist. And this guy who bought it also bought it, because he's a Corvette lover. That's his thing. He's a classic, car collector.
Do you know what was his reason to buy it? To keep it like in a showroom, to show it at car shows, to drive it? Like, what's the plan?
The new guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea. I've not talked to him. I haven't met him yet.
Okay.
Well, I want to know why the old guy sold it, because everything you've said, it sounded like he was like, I'm in this for the long haul to get this baby up and running.
Yeah, he was in it for the long money, apparently.
Yeah, right.
Well, he loved it. He did love it.
Yeah, and look, he paid a fair price for it. So, he has done classic cars for years, and so he has a few and realizes he can't keep all of them. It's not like he's got a stockpile of classic cars. He's got one white Corvette that he and his wife have had for a long time, and the red one. And he asked her to choose between, which one she wanted.
Aww.
And she still wanted the white one. So they wound up selling it, that it's, up and running, which is, again,
that's
it's
cute.
fine.
It means he couldn't decide.
And it's running. It would be, if we still had it, it would be sitting in the carport with flat tires again, not running.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to reach out and see, this guy's story. And what is interest in? It's weird how the story keeps building on it.
I hope he's receptive to you. You know what I mean?
I think he will
might,
be.
Yeah.
Well, so he actually
it belongs to him now.
He gave permission for the contact information to be given to me. So it's
good.
he's good with all that. Just haven't talked to him yet. So
good.
But it'll be a lot easier to meet him. It'll be a lot easier to see the car running now.
Yeah.
And an easier thing to coordinate with me and my brother and sister. Trying to coordinate three families and traveling together, over a distance to do something like that was tricky.
Are you going to ask to drive it?
So I don't know. I mean, I'll have to see. That'll have to be the comfort level of him. I mean, I would like to ride it.
He doesn't have to say yes, even if you were to ask.
He doesn't have to let me come see it at all, really.
Right. He doesn't have to let you touch it.
But that's But the great thing about these, classic car collectors and enthusiasts is it's its own community. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a shared excitement. He's not going to say no. I mean, I'm making an assumption there, but anybody that I've ever known who is,
they get it.
Who's into the car shows and all that, right? It's a very friendly. Everybody shares stories. Everybody looks at everybody's engines, all that stuff.
Oh, okay, got it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. Other than to reach out, I guess we'll find out whether I get rejected or not on the next step. But
so I guess that means like one day down the road, if he's that close to home, you might.
You could see it if he's driving it on the regular.
That's true. I guess as dumb as it sounds, I didn't think about that, Sam. I should be looking right now.
I thought about that immediately.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we can see this thing around.
It's all right. Leave it to me for the dumb things.
How weird is that it would come back, the odds of that, now, especially since it wasn't sold locally per se. It's not like I know that the person who bought it from me was not that far away, but it's funny how it just came back here. It could have wound up several states away.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gone anywhere.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so close enough to home, I hope you get to see it. That's really going to hurt if he's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, right.
That'll really sting.
Let me ask you this: whenever it does get up and running, does it qualify? I'm assuming it does for an antique license plate or antique status?
that depends on the state, but as it is now, yes. Mm-hmm. So in some states, antique is 25 years old.
Yeah.
So you could. A car from 1995 can get an antique plate, depending on, not every state's the same.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it would be eligible for an antique plate. And I also think that puts it in a different, depending on the state, like a different status for registration fees. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that you don't pay as much for because it's, classified as an antique. Huh. But what I'll be curious to see is, I certainly want to hear it running again. I'll be curious to see what was done to the body and if there had been some paint work done to it, because it needed a little bit, and it might not have. And then the interior, the original liner was kind of sagging, on the roof, but the interior was essentially like it was in 1966, because my dad kept it covered in a carport. It wasn't in a garage, but it was covered in a carport, so the elements never got to the inside, of the car. So I'm just curious to see, all right, now that somebody's done their magic to it, what does it look like? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and if this guy is, I don't know if he is like a restoration person. Maybe he is. Maybe I will find out that he wants to get this thing perfect and, show worthy. Mm-hmm. It's an oddly expensive, I shouldn't say oddly, it is a interestingly expensive venture for those that want to do it as a hobby. And if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong. If you've earned the money, spend it and do what you want to do. But to do the super competition stuff or taking it to the next level, you're probably going to invest an amount of money in it that you're not necessarily going to get back out of it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these guys are not looking to do that because it's the love of what they're doing.
There were only so many of them made, and you do it because out of respect for the piece of machinery that you are looking at.
Yeah.
I do understand that.
Yeah,
I know I sound like an enthusiast at this moment, but that's the reason you do it, because there are only so many. Wouldn't it be great that if a lot of them or some of them could be as close to mint condition as possible?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
Well, and for me, the life lesson in this one is it's really cool to see it up and running. That would be a nice thing, but the practicality part of it, knowing again that it's just not.
Oh no!
In our life situation where we are now, girls in school, all the things, all that. It's just not it's not practical, and it wouldn't. It keeps two cars out of the carport. So, right. I mean, it's not likely to be driven, it's not practical to drive as a regular car every day, and you wouldn't want to do that. So, and I'm just, as much as I would like to think I could be that guy, I'm not that guy. I'm not Jay Leno, you know what I mean?
The guy that you sold it to that got it up and running, has he done anything else to it? He just got it up and running?
See, I don't know. I can't wait until I see it. I don't know. Oh. He didn't say anything, about that. I think it was one of those where he turned it around immediately, and he's older. So, I mean, it's not like he's in his late 70s. I don't think he wants a stockpile of cars sitting around the house. So he
wants one white Corvette.
Yeah. It's the It's the fun of fixing it up.
Sure.
It's the hands-on, because a lot of it he did himself with a few other helpers. It was him, you know.
I understand
So,
that, because when you had it in our carport for that time where you guys were trying to decide what to do with it, I can't remember how many friends of yours came over just to see it.
Yeah.
Everybody just wanted to see it.
Right.
I swear it was
funny,
crazy.
Not running. Look at this thing.
There it is.
Flat tires. Right, exactly.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.